This Steve Jones Show podcast is now loading. The Steve Jones Show podcast is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, Brewers Outlet, and NIL Game Changers. Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Brewers Outlet, NIL Game Changers, Sunbury Motor Company, and Purdy Insurance. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
All right, so let's bring in the outstanding Rich Scarcella, Reading Eagle. My friend, welcome back.
Hi, Steve. How are you?
I'm doing well. You?
Pretty good.
Good. All right. Interesting times on so many different levels. What was your reaction? And I think it wasn't a surprise that Dartmouth voted 13-2 that they want to join a union. But what do you see as the potential ramifications as we start to sort it out?
Do you have a couple hours?
Yes.
There's a lot. There are a lot. I mean, first of all, the vote was just part of the process, as you know, and there's some other steps that have to be taken before there's an actual union. I think we're headed in that direction. How soon? I don't know. I'm talking about Division I for sure, and maybe it trickles down to Division II and Division III. But I think there's going to be some kind of, whether it's union or not, there's going to be some employer-employee relationship in the near future for college athletics. I don't see how it can't be. And honestly, I think it might be better, big picture-wise, than the current situation, which is just the wild, wild west.
It does bring organization to it, and it's something we've talked about that maybe they do need to sit down and collectively bargain, because I think the NCAA's push to go through the government, this is an election year. They're not going to deal with this right now. They're not going to. And I don't even know if that's the best route to go anyway, but at least you would have on both sides coming together to at least give some structure. How about that?
Yeah, I think that absolutely, and you can have structure, and there's going to it's not going to be as freewheeling as it is now, and especially after the Tennessee ruling a couple weeks ago, I just don't see what the NCAA has made it clear they're not going to stand in the way of, they're not going to fight anything when it comes to NIL. So, Steve, I just think. I hear this a lot from family members and from acquaintances, friends. The NIL, this, that, the transfer. I'm like, well, we can dislike it, but it's here, and it's not going. You're not going back. So, I think if you have some type of employee relationship, I think. Like you said, there's more organization. I think there's a little bit more control, and I've seen so many different stories that the NIL money overall might be drying up, and that's something honestly that Patrick Kraft said almost 2 years ago that he could see that happening. I think there's going to be some kind of compensation based thing, and then if you do unionize, then you're going into collective bargaining, then you're going into wage levels, then you could be going into taxes, and it's not simple, but I think considering how bad the situation is right now, and how it's just whoever has the most money is going to get the best players. I just think it's a little better situation.
But can you be cut? Can you be released? You're not performing to the level they want. We're paying you as an employee. Can that happen?
Well, that remains to be seen. That's got to be written into a contract language. And I think that's another thing that, people don't necessarily foresee if this takes place. And like I said, I think whether it's a union or not, I think it's going to happen. And I'm sure you read what Nick Saban said to Chris Lowe of ESPN, and
right.
He thought that he was going to have a very, very good team again this year, and he said what was happening is the players have two questions: how much playing time am I going to get, and how much money am I going to get? Period. They don't. It's not for the not for the what can I do to make this team better? What can I do to gain playing time? And this is the situation we're in, and if it's happening at an Alabama, it's happening everywhere. So, yeah.
Yeah, I was about to bring up the Nick Saban thing because, look, we've seen over the past couple of years no more Roy Williams, no more Mike Krzyzewski, no Jay Wright, now no Nick Saban.
Yep.
Right? And this isn't a get-off-the-lawn thing. It's just they're looking around saying, do I want to deal with this thing?
I agree, and I know I've watched the ESPN Hour show on. I mean, I've seen it. I know it's originated on the ACC network with Roy Williams and Mike Krzyzewski, and it was really very, very well done.
Yeah. My friend.
I was
Wes
thinking
Stern
the same thing as I'm watching it. I'm like, here's two guys that if this was 8 years ago and they were still the same age, would they still be coaching? And my guess is yes. Yeah. And they have nothing left to prove other than they're competitive people, and they want to honestly be teachers and teach kids the way they think things should be done. But anyway, you're right. You lose people like that, Jay Wright. You lose Nick Saban. Where does it end? And you just wonder. How long this current environment can continue.
But you still have other things like the actual playing to look forward to, and the Penn State will start spring practice next week. On your laundry list, what are you interested in seeing with this particular team as we get back to the fun stuff?
Well, it's a laundry list. Well, I think the most important thing is you have 3 new coordinators. Let's start there.
Yes.
Let's start with the offense and Andy Kotelnicki. Since we could watch clips of the Kansas Jayhawks and the Buffalo Bulls from the last several years, but let's see how, as he said in December, about how he fits, not how the Penn State players fit his scheme, but how he's going to fit their talents. How is he going to work to make them, put them in the best position to be successful? I'm curious. I mean, we may not see a lot of that in the spring, but I'm very curious about that. Obviously, the wide receivers. I think adding Julian Fleming was a big plus for a lot of reasons. Talent, intangibles. I think that's a big plus. How many of the guys who have returned wide receivers, how will they step up this spring? Will they be competitive? Will they be fighting for jobs? Will they be, is it cut and dry that it's Julian Fleming, Keandre Lambert-Smith, and Trey Wallace, or is somebody else going to enter that picture? Those two questions to me are the first things. And then with Abdul Carter moving to defensive end, how will the linebackers look? How will he look at defensive end? I think it's a good move, by the way, for not only the present but his future as well. But how will the linebackers look this year with Kobe King, Tony Rojas, Dom DeLuca, and others? And then how do you replace Olu Fashanu, Caden Wallace? How do you replace Kalen King and Johnny Dixon and Daquan Hardy? So there's a lot to be ironed out here, not only in the spring, but down the road in preseason camp.
You mentioned Julian Fleming, a couple of other of the transfers in. How interested are you to see how they fit?
Well, I think I'm very interested because you have a Nolan Rucci, who is he's a big guy.
Yes, he is.
Is he the leading candidate to be the left tackle? I would assume so. You have corners Jalen Kimber and A.J. Harris from the SEC. How will they fit in with somebody like Cam Miller? There are others too. I'm not going to go down the whole list, but they're the ones who I'm most interested in seeing. How do they fit? I mean, if you remember last year, Storm Duck was here for a brief moment, and then for the spring, and then he left. And I'm interested to see how these guys fit in and where they fit in depth chart wise.
Storm Duck would have helped him too. I mean, I was impressed in watching him. I liked him, but that's just me. In terms of watching him play. Another part's going to be, and this will be a subtle one, but you have the snapper back, you have the punter back, but the place kicker has to be replaced. And so this is a new set of eyes on these guys. Your thoughts?
Yeah. Oh gosh. I mean, Chase Meyer from Tulsa, transferred from Tulsa. He's got a good reputation. Does Xander Sahadak, does he get a chance? Not get a chance, but does he prove what the Penn State coaches saw in him a few years ago from the Lehigh Valley? Yeah, that's going to be interesting. And obviously, the most accurate kicker is going to, and the most consistent kicker is going to get the job. But yeah, that's a battle to be won. I mean, I think it's a good situation for Justin Lustig to step into the fact that you have the snapper back, Tyler Dusansky, and you have Alex Felkins back. Not Alex Felkins. Oh my gosh, I'm okay. Riley Thompson back. I think that's a good situation for the special teams. So, how do you replace Daquan Hardy as a punt returner? Be interesting. Does Nick Singleton continue to return kicks? I don't know, but that's something that will be determined, I guess, or has been determined, but we don't know yet. So, but yeah, you're right, Steve. The kicker, finding a kicker is not the easiest thing in the world.
No, it is not. The expansion to 12, we've talked about that before. Now they're already talking about when the new contract comes up of going to 14, with the SEC and the Big Ten pushing for the top two spots to be automatics for them. What's your thought on that?
It's the Big Ten and the SEC throwing their collective weight around. They know they're the two biggest power brokers in college football, and I think it's a tad arrogant. I don't like it. I think you should get in on your own merits. I do, and especially if you go to 14. So it just kind of not a good tone, not a positive tone. I don't think with the ACC and the Big 12 and the Group of Five too.
Mm-hmm. Look, obviously, in what we do, you either adapt or you die. It's as simple as that. What has it taken for you to adapt to the changes in college football, but also what has it taken for you to adapt in a business that you're in, that every single day something gets thrown at you business-wise that is never comfortable?
Wow. I mean, you have to adapt to survive. I mean, when I started covering Penn State for the Red Eagle, I was working on a Radio Shack computer that would take 3 to 5 minutes to send the story. And everything now is instantaneous, not just transmitting a story, but everything else. Everything is 24/7, and you just do. I mean, I'm in a little different position now, Steve, because I'm a part-timer. For the last year and a half, this time of year, and you and I think talked about this. I'm broadcasting high school basketball games,
right.
And so, and I have another position too, and so I'm not I follow it, but I'm not totally invested in it this time of the year. I will beginning next week,
right.
Of course, but it's not. But you do have to change, and you, I remember in '89. I thought there were a lot of people covering Penn State back then, and there was, and there still is. Just that they're working for, not the same people, but different outlets, different types of outlets. Mm-hmm. And I think I've adjusted. I think, I don't think. I hope people don't look at me as an old fart. Excuse the expression.
No.
I think I try to keep up with the times, and try to stay current. But yeah, it's hard when everything is 24/7. It makes it harder for sure.
Rich, trusted and respected. You earned that, and you've done it. So that's why. All right.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, trusted and respected. Everybody trusts you. They respect you. So that's never an issue. My friend, thanks so much. Appreciate you as always. Look forward to talking as this thing progresses.
I'll see you next week, I think maybe a couple of days.
Sounds great, Rich. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Steve. Bye.
Rich Scarcella, Reading Eagle.